In this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to establish two-color brioche knitting by working a setup row. This example shows off of a cast-on edge, but it will work anywhere in the middle of a knitting project as well if you need to switch to two-color brioche. So let's get started. The reason I like this simple setup is that you end up with a nice solid color beginning point for your brioche to kind of grow out of. There's a lot of different cast-ons. I'm just using a simple long tail cast on to put 11 stitches on my needle, just a small number so I can show you how the setup row goes. Brioche knitting is basically an A-B pattern of a worked stitch and then a slipped stitch, a worked, slipped, worked, slipped, so that every other stitch is being slipped. And so on this setup row, what we're going to do is establish that pattern with just the main color. So the first stitch is going to be knit. And the second stitch is going to be slipped, but not just slipped. So this is what in brioche knitting is called a slip one yarn over, is what I'm going to show you. Abbreviated SL1YO. And so you'll make it by moving your working yarn to the front as if you were going to purl. You will slip the next stitch purlwise, just like this. And then you will bring the working yarn back to the back by laying it over the top of that slipped stitch. Now, in a normal brioche row, the next stitch would be a brioche knit stitch that we would work. But in this setup row, we are just going to knit it, just a regular knit stitch. So here is my yarn over on the top of that slipped stitch, and I'm going to go right into knitting the next stitch. So far you can see I've got 4 strands kind of over my needle, but this just counts as 1, 2, 3 stitches. So worked, slipped, worked. Now I'm going to bring my yarn to the front again. I'm going to slip the next stitch. I'm going to create the yarn over by laying my yarn over the top of that slipped stitch and then knit the next stitch. This is our pattern so far. A, B, A, B. Now you'll notice as I bring my yarn to the front, you can also do this kind of in a shortcut by slipping this stitch, going in to knit the next stitch, and then just pulling the yarn over to do it that way. It automatically creates that yarn over the top of the slipped stitch. So bring it to the front, slip the stitch, knit the next stitch. Bring it to the front, slip, and then the last stitch is knit as well. Now this example that I'm showing you is a flat piece. We are not working in the round, and so for this purpose, these 2 end stitches will be our selvage edge stitches, which means they don't follow the rest of the brioche pattern. So what we're mostly working with is these stitches in between. So that sets up the main color row. Now in brioche knitting, in two-color brioche, one brioche round is the combination of the brioche knit row and the brioche purl row. So now we're going to go back and attach the second color. I'm just sliding my stitches back to the other end of the needle. And I'm going to show you how to attach the contrast color in this example. So like I said, these first stitches are selvage edges, which means they're not going to follow the normal rules. So I'm just going to slip this stitch. We're going to keep it as a solid knit. And then to attach the second color, we're going to grab our contrast color, this nice dark green. We're going to join it by laying it in between that first stitch and the slip one yarn over. And you'll notice that I'm coming from the back to the front, leaving about a 4-inch tail or so. I'm going to use my index finger on my left hand to kind of hold it in place. And now I'm ready to work with it. So the first stitch on this contrast color round, you can see is a slip one yarn over from the previous row. So it has that kind of funny little yarn over laying over the top of it. We're going to work the 2 stitches together, and it's going to look like a purl 2 together because we've got those 2 strands, but that is a brioche purl stitch, which we affectionately also can refer to as a burp, BRP. So that is our brioche purl stitch. Now, to establish the AB pattern on this row, we are going to brioche purl this stitch, and then our next stitch is going to be a slip 1 yarn over. Very similar to how we did it with the knit stitch, but this time we are starting in the front, so we don't have to move our yarn to the front. I'm going to slip this stitch purlwise, and then create my yarn over by laying it over the top. And on this row, I need to bring it, lay it over the top, and then bring it back to the front here to get ready for the next stitch. The next stitch is our burp stitch, brioche purl, where we are going to work those 2 strands together in a purl stitch. So far I've got a brioche purl here, a slip 1 yarn over right there, and then another brioche purl. So now it's an AB pattern. We're just going to go back and forth. We just did a brioche purl, and now we're going to slip, create the yarn over by laying our yarn on top and bringing it back to the front, and purling those 2 strands together. Okay. Just going to go all around, lays it over the front, brings it back, or lays it over the top and brings it back to the front, ready to do our brioche purl. Here we're in the front, slip 1, yarn over, bring it back to the front, brioche purl, these 2 strands together, and then for our selvage stitch we're just going to slip it again. Now it does look a little bit messy, but if you kind of spread it out you can see that what we've established here is a purl stitch that is by itself, a brioche purl stitch. It's just a single strand, and then we have the slip 1 yarn over, which looks like a double strand kind of crossed on top. The brioche purl, slip 1 yarn over, purl, yarn over, purl. And so this is the basis for our 2-color brioche knitting. So from here you can work as the pattern specifies, but that is just how we set up. And so now we would move on to working with the main color again, and I'll show you that in another video.